Hi everyone, Mon here. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the subscribers. Welcome if you're new here. Please subscribe. We're a small channel and we're okay with that. We're okay with that because this channel attracts specific souls that are on a specific journey. All right. So how has everybody been? This channel is called Intuitive Soul Savant, and I am a real human. And the reason I have to say that is because I started listening to this lady and, oh, wow, so wise. And she's just free talking and, wow, the wisdom was amazing, amazing. And I kept looking at her face thinking, is this AI? Is this real? Is this AI? And at first I thought it was real. And then yesterday I was looking to another video she'd made and her nose was all sort of twisted a bit. I'm thinking that cannot be real. That cannot be real. And, you know, she had shiny face here. You could see some pores of the skin, but then the skin was changing, like morphing, you know. So we do need to be careful. Great thing she was saying, but I'm not here to support AI. I really believe in the creative power of the biological human being, and I will stand firm on AI, okay? And I'm not going to get caught up in it. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. All I know is that AI is becoming so smart that it is learning your preferences, okay? And once it learns your preferences, you won't know whether you thought to look that up or whether AI just gave you that thought, okay? And I would like to master my mind. So that's that about different videos and me being a real person. I just want to take a moment today for us to also have some compassion for the collective, ourselves, our families, our leaders, people that are really struggling. You know, a compassionate thought I send out from my heart to all the collective, which I do in my meditation daily anyway. But you know, I think many people are walking around disassociated from what's actually really going on. And I've only just started to broach these subjects with my clients and others that come across my path. You know, the insecurity of life, of being a human being is out of this world, you could say. And in all of my 60 years, you know, this is not just me being a Capricorn and having a very constricting life. You know, many people on this planet, if not all human beings, are wondering not so much what's going on, but wondering, you know, and feeling insecure as a human being. You know, financial security, home security, security for our teaching, our children, you know, education security, healthcare security, you know, all of these things, as the veil is lifted from the dark to uncover the darkness that, you know, humanity has pushed down and disassociated for decades and decades, if not centuries. Yeah, so, you know, to be human these days, it is to be a very vulnerable being. It really is. We are vulnerable, and the best that we can do about that is care for ourselves, firstly, and then care for those nearest and dearest to us, okay? This is not the time to be a rescuer. We really need to care for ourselves and keep our frequency as high as possible, which raises the frequency of the Schumann resonance, which I heard in the last week has risen, and I'm so glad about that because that's my meditation every day, is energy for the collective on planet and for Mother Earth, Gaia. Now, the astrology. So have any of you noticed that in your charts that since the end of last year, we've had all the planets, transiting planets. We've had them all in either a quarter. At one point, we had them in a quarter of the chart, 3 houses, and then now they're into 6 houses. Okay, with Pluto in Aquarius and Jupiter in Cancer. Well, Venus has gone into Leo now. So, and as Venus and then the Sun, Mercury, then Mars, they'll all head into Leo and they'll all do their opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. Okay. We've had the Venus opportunity. All right, I've got to tell you. Saturn, transiting Saturn in Aries is actually exactly squaring my natal Mercury in Capricorn, and it will be stationing in that square and retrograding from that square. Exact. Okay, so if I come across a bit too harsh or a bit too Saturnian, that'll be why. I've got Saturn squaring, or if I'm having trouble with my words. All right, but we are in the shadow of the Mercury retrograde in Cancer, okay, which will be opposing my natal Mercury. That actually goes retrograde on my Mercury, opposition of my Mercury as well in the 12th house. Yeah, sometimes you feel like you're the only person whose chart's getting hit. It seems that every time there's an aspect, it's not got something to do with my planets in my natal chart. So that's what's happening with Mercury. So back to what I was saying. So the planets were in half of our charts, okay, from Aquarius to Cancer. And then once that moves into Leo, right, we're going to start spreading out a little bit more. So it's been very intense in certain parts of our chart, but that will be changing, okay? So speaking of Mercury, today is Sunday, East Coast Sydney time, Australia. Saturday yesterday, and we had Mercury in Cancer sextiling Mars in Taurus at 22 to 23 degrees. That'll still be in orb today, that energy. Now, Mars has been quiet, I would say, in Taurus. Mars isn't so keen on being in Taurus because Taurus is very a slow-moving energy, and Mars likes to go for it. So Mars is sort of in the last 10 degrees of Taurus, and when Mars enters into Gemini, it will join Uranus. Okay, Uranus. Now, Mars and Uranus together, you can imagine that fiery element wanting to take action, and then you've got Uranus who just wants to change everything. It feels needs changing. It doesn't usually have a solution either. It's just the change agent. So that energy will be coming up for us. Okay, so, over this weekend with the Mercury in Cancer, we're sort of thinking about the family and the nurturing and all that sort of stuff. We did touch on that aspect last week. Okay, and the big news yesterday was Chiron ingressed into Taurus. That was yesterday morning, Saturday morning here, Friday night, Northern Hemisphere. So that's what's happened. That's what's happened. Today, being Sunday, the Sun is now in Cancer. And also today, it hasn't quite happened yet while I'm making this video. So early Sunday morning for you guys in the Northern Hemisphere. Okay, early morning while you're sleeping. The Sun went into Cancer today, and Sun sextile Chiron in Taurus at the early degrees. So the Sun's moved into Cancer and Chiron's moved into Taurus, and the Sun is catching Chiron with a nice sextile, 0 degrees in 3 minutes. Very, very early degrees. Now, we're going to talk more about Chiron moving into Taurus which it did yesterday. And it's only in there just for a few months till September. So we're just getting a little taste. And even those few months, you know, will be just a little taste because, you know, Chiron in Taurus will be squaring Pluto in Aquarius, right? Now, this square is going to be on and off right into the 2030s. So it's a big thing, this Chiron in Taurus. Let me bring it home. Chiron in Taurus. This is big, big, big. We had Chiron in Aries, which was about owning the self, the healing, the wounding, the healing of the wound of not stepping out as the self, shining as the self, being sovereign being, you know, knowing what one wants, okay, not the Chiron in Pisces where we were helping everybody and you know, being that martyr and wounded in that Pisces energy of the victim, okay, and then Chiron spent time in Aries, which was another generation, and that generation also had the Pluto, Uranus in Libra. Okay, that Chiron in Taurus generation. Yeah, so you know, Taurus. We say Aries is the self, but it's more the ego self, the willful self. You could say with Aries. With Taurus, it's the self, but it's the body self, okay? Very much about the comfort of the being, the physical being. It's the first earth sign, Taurus, right? And also Taurus is about our agriculture and our food, right? Those things that sustain us as just beings, all right? So Chiron going into Taurus, you know, if you wanted to, you know, have a stab in the dark, we could have our food supplies in jeopardy at some point of the transit of Chiron in Taurus, all right? You know, we know there's so much changes in agriculture, right? We know that. Uranus was there in Taurus, and Uranus, you know, showed us even with the, you know, the time that we had locked up for those couple of years, the pandemic, you know, we could see that we had to care for ourselves and the supplies that we brought home, and we couldn't be greedy and take too much because others would miss out. That's a Chiron in Taurus wound, you know, because Taurus very much reaches for things to make them feel secure. Right? So that's a Taurus energy, and that's what Taurus does, and it can turn into a shadow because Taurus may reach for too much. Taurus may fill their whole house full of boxes so you can't see the walls and you have a little place to get through it. That's called hoarding. And that's the very deep shadowy side of Taurus. Okay, so we are going to be, and our values, right? Taurian second house, our values. We may have to change our values up. The world is changing. The collective is expanding. So our values around the Taurus issues, right, of our self-sufficiency basically may have to change. But we're not going to know that this year in the couple of months that Chiron enters Taurus, because it's going to square, Chiron's going to square Pluto in Aquarius, all about the collective. So this is big, you know, this is a big thing that we're going to have to talk about a lot, and that is going to affect each individual of the collective, if not communities in the collective. Okay, that's that Chiron into Taurus, and that happened yesterday. So here we are, 0 degrees, Chiron in Taurus. So also the energy that's in play at the moment, we have the Sun sextiling Chiron in Taurus because the Sun moving into Cancer. Okay, so that orb is in. That happens this afternoon here. So the sun's sextiling Chiron, which is, an easy transit. We've also got the Uranus squaring the nodes, and that's going to go right through to the end of the month, 30th of June. And on this week, there'll be on and off exact squares of Uranus squaring the nodes, okay? And those nodes are on the very last degrees. As I said to you, that is a big transit, but we are used to that energy, lots of flip-flopping around with the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. And, right at the end of this North Node Pisces, South Node Virgo, we've got Uranus there, digging into those nodes and the energies that they carry for change. Uranus is always about change, revolution, evolution. And it just happens. Surprise. All right. So that's still in play. Now, the other thing that's in play, which is exact on the 25th of July, right? 25th of July, but it's in orb now, is Neptune in Aries sextiling Pluto in Aquarius. Okay, so that's a sextile as well. That is from the 11th of June right through to the 30th of October. That will be in play. But I said this last week, the week before as well, this will happen 13 times, the exact Neptune sextile Pluto will happen 13 times right up until, the 2030s. So that's just sitting in the back, humming along, all right? Humming along. Today, as I said, Sun in Cancer this afternoon, Sun sextile Chiron in Taurus this evening here, early Sunday morning for you guys from the Northern Hemisphere. So Monday, no exacts here. Tuesday, no exacts here. Wednesday, no exacts here. However, we've got the Sun trining those nodes. So we've got Uranus squaring the nodes, and then when the Sun went into Cancer, it is now trining the nodes, all right? And that'll be exact, the Sun trining those nodes on Tuesday and Wednesday, the 23rd and the 24th. That energy is in play, right? Yes. So it is exact on the Tuesday. So we've got that energy from Uranus to the nodes, and then the shiny Sun, which will probably light up. Whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. It's all about the light with the Sun. The light and the trine is making it easier for us to work on any chinks we have with the Uranus square the nodes, any changes that need to happen. The Sun's going to come along from Cancer, the nurturer, the self-nurturer, the other nurturer, and shine some light to make it easier for us to see what needs to be changed from Uranus and the nodes, okay? And those nodes is very clear, our spiritual self and our practical, earthly, human self. North Node Pisces, our spiritual, higher self, and then our everyday worker body with the South Node in Virgo, okay? What needs to be changed in that South Node? Perfectionism, workaholism, judgment, overjudging, judging with the Virgo is a shadow. And with that North Node, your spirituality, but also are you numbing out on anything? Addictions also with that polarity of the Pisces and the Virgo, because Virgo is habits, right? Pisces is numbing out. With habits that become addictions, okay, to not feel, the depth of the energy that's out there at the moment, and has people feeling very insecure to be a human being. But we signed up for this, whether you did or not, you're alive now, and this is what's happening. and there's no way out, right? Unless you want to go the hard way. But this is it. This is where we find ourselves. But the astrology is there. Click, 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 click. We are lucky because we have so many astrological teachers online. But as I've always suggested, stick with the strength, stick with age and experience when it comes to astrology. Otherwise, it's just dry old theory, and it's dry, okay? But that's not my style. All right, so that we've got, let's get it together here. The sun now in Cancer. And the sun is trining those nodes, right, to give some light as to what Uranus wants to change, right? There's your clarity there. So that's Monday, and then Tuesday, though, that's exact with the sun because the sun moves along so quickly, Uranus not so quickly. So Wednesday, the 24th, that the orb comes in, okay, from the 24th of June to the 7th of August. So this is a bit of a time that this orb is going to be in play, the energy is going to be in play. We've got Uranus sextiling Neptune, and that's exact on the 16th of July. And in July, I will say it, but I don't necessarily agree because, we all have personal charts, but astrologers are saying once we get to July, the second half of the year is a breeze. Well, I'm not going to say that because, I've got many subscribers here that are getting that are having their Pluto transits. They're challenging Pluto transits. Okay, so that's our Aquarians, our Leos, our Scorpios, and our Taurians. So it's never easy with a Pluto square to your personal planet or an opposition or a conjunction. Conjunction's very hard. All right, so that Uranus sextile Neptune, very easy. However, that's Neptune in Aries. They move so slow, Neptune does, and we discussed that with the Neptune sextile and the Pluto. Okay, so they're all sitting there as nice energy, but it's really slow. And us as humans, we get used to the energy. We get used to living in the energy. It's just like if you went to a different climate, you would get used to the climate. And that's what happens with the slowly moving planets. Okay, Uranus, out of all the slow ones, is the only thing that will act like surprise, lightning bolt. That's Uranus. I bet you Mars is very jealous. Anyway, all right. So that all starts on the 24th of Uranus, sextiling Neptune, and I have the 4 degrees video. I'll pop it up again today because all of this is all coming into alignment with the 4 degrees in July. Okay, and we'll get there and we'll discuss that. So on Thursday, Venus in Leo trines Saturn in Aries, and that is at 13 degrees 56 minutes. All right, and that's Thursday here, and it'll be late Wednesday evening in the Northern Hemisphere. Venus loves being in Leo. Venus loves to get Leo to party and have fun and eat and cook and just enjoy itself, basically. Venus loves to be in Leo because it can enjoy itself. And sometimes Venus gets a little bit cocky in Leo, so we do have to be aware of that. But Saturn in Aries, Saturn is always about discipline, constriction, and the trine is Venus yelling out to its Aries friends, calm down, loosen up a bit, it's only Saturn. Okay, you haven't got the world on your shoulders, Aries. It's just Saturn. So, my Aries clients, my Aries people, they feel like they've got the world on their shoulders, and that's how Saturn feels. It's like gravity pushing you down and you feel heavy. You feel like you're walking through mud. Welcome to Capricorn's life. So that's a nice energy, and that is exact this Thursday. Okay, and if you've got anything there in Leo or Aries at, it's at 14 degrees, so, 10 degrees to 19 degrees. That whole second decan of the fire signs charts, the second decans of all the fire in your charts, right? The Leo house, the Aries house, the Sag house, will all benefit from that beautiful Venus and Leo energy and the trine. Okay, so Friday, we have the Sun in Cancer squaring Neptune in Aries, but aren't we lucky? The Sun moves so fast. So, and Neptune is so elusive. It's such an elusive energy. It's not clarity. It's not physical energy. Okay, so the Sun, in Cancer, and the Cancer is so watery, and then Neptune is watery energy. So, the fire signs of Aries may feel like they've been their fires put out a little bit with the Sun in Cancer. It's not all about you, Aries. It's about the family with the Sun in Cancer, and it's about who we nurture, and it's about our home, and it's about our emotional body. All right, our emotional body. So there may be, with Neptune in Aries, you may, be sidewinked, or that's my words aren't coming out, like tricked. Okay, because that Neptune's so elusive, and the Cancer hides when it's too emotional. All right, so clarity may be a big issue coming into the weekend, next weekend, right? Clarity around our home, clarity within our own self. Maybe we've got, things going on in our chart, and we're pulled left to right, and we just don't have the answers. But that's okay. This passes very quickly. And, my prescription would be just to rest, to go with it until clarity comes. But just know that, you may not have clarity going into next weekend with whatever issues have come up for you. And that's at 4 degrees and 23 minutes. So that's where Neptune is at the moment, okay? And the Sun will move past that degrees as quick as anything. Next Friday, the orb that comes in, the energy that's coming in next Friday for the weekend right up until the end of the month, okay, will be the Mars sextile Jupiter. And that'll be exact on next Sunday, okay, a week from today. And it's right at the anaretic degrees. Mars is right at the end of Taurus. Jupiter is right at the end of Cancer. And this energy is happening right before Jupiter moves into Leo, right before Mercury stations to go retrograde. So we're actually in that that phase, and I can't even think of the word. Oh my God. Anyway, that's Saturn square Mercury for you personally. All right, so Mars sextile Jupiter at the anaretic degrees, and lots of things are going to take place on the 30th of this month. And I'll be back next weekend, but we'll just say the other orb that's coming in, the other energy coming in is Jupiter squaring Chiron. Okay, so Jupiter's moved into to Leo, and Chiron is moved into Taurus, and that makes a square. Okay, so that energy's coming in. It's not going to be exact till the 7th of July, but that energy will come in next weekend. It's exact on the 2nd of July. The energy will be around from the 27th of June right through to the 7th of July, okay? So that's a slower energy that's coming in, but it is a square, okay? And, then we will go on to Jupiter opposing Pluto, but we're not going to go there yet. July is a big month. It's all about the 4 degrees in your chart of Aquarius, Aries, Gemini, and Leo, okay? And the polar opposites to them. If you've got planets polar opposites to those signs, okay? So everybody, everybody is feeling the astrology. There's no doubt about it. So, you know, just be aware about the Mercury retrograde. I'm always affected by the Mercury retrograde, if not my car is, okay? And if you've got a business, clients cancel, get the wrong dates and times, mechanical stuff, the washing machine just stops and you think it's broken, and then the Mercury stops retrograding and it's fixed. It's the same as computers. I've experienced all of that. The worst one that I experience every time is a drop in business, you know. Anyway, but I'm glad to be here with you guys, and I'm glad to be able to bring in my form of astrology. Just keep the compassion for yourself. It's not easy being a human being, all right, in these times, right up to the 2030s. We've got years of this, okay? But if we can just have a little bit of compassion for each other, if you're feeling whatever you're feeling, other humans must be feeling that too. And here's the kicker. People on this channel and people that I know have been at these spiritual practices for decades and decades, if not all of their lives. So we're not easily blown to and fro. And we also have awareness because of our astrological studies. So, you know, if we are feeling this way, imagine what people that don't even have any spiritual awareness whatsoever, right? Live in the 3D mundane, you know, maybe they're not even awake enough to know that there is issues going on, but I'm sure they are. We are having the great awakening. That's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. So just compassion. Yeah. Compassion for yourself and others. And it really, you know, if you're in pain, compassion is a great antidote for your own self. So I love you all. I love you. And yes, I will be making a few more videos this week, but I don't want to promise anything because I'm so led by higher power and source. I just do what I'm told. And if I'm not feeling it, then I'm told, no, don't do it, because you've got to bring the energy. All right. Love you all. Namaste and have a great weekend. Bye.